Hello and welcome back to yet again another DIY video on my Tesla Model 3. This time I'm going to take you through on my self-attempt on installing the Unplugged Performance lowering springs. We are now looking at the before and after comparison video between the stock 4x4 wheel gaps and the aggressive 2.1 drop from the Unplugged Performance lowering spring. Starting with the unboxing, since we all like autopilot, auto park, I figured why not do an auto unboxing video for fun. Out of the box, you get, more boxes, a very well packed coil wrapped in foam packaging sheets and boxed individually, followed with two Unplugged Performance decals, one in black and one in white. To begin the installation, first pop your front and remove the front plastic cover by removing the 10mm bolts as shown. You will have to remove the front mat to get to the two bolts here. You will also have to pop off the front latch cover to get to these two bolts and unplug this connector as well. Once all the bolts are removed, gently pop up all the clip holding the front and carefully lift the front cover and storage up and away from the car. Place it down gently. Now you have access to the strut top nuts. They are 13mm and requires a deep, thin wall socket. Loosen them up just so slightly, do not remove completely just yet. Next, put the car up on a jack using the jack pad between the floor jack and the chassis. If you're not using an impact gun to remove the wheel lug nuts, you may also want to loosen them up slightly by hand tool prior to lifting the car up with a jack. Once the wheels is removed, you can now access the strut assembly. Using an 18mm socket to remove the sway bar linkage attached to the strut housing, leave the linkage attached for now. Next, you will be using a 21mm socket to remove the strut bottom bolts and nuts that is holding the strut to the bottom of the lower control arm. Once this 21mm bolt is off, it's time to go back up to the top and remove the three 13mm strut top nuts completely. Also time to remove the sway bar linkage. You will also have to push the lower control arm down with quite a bit of force in order to make room for the strut to slide out. And just like that, you have now removed one of the two front struts. Next, you will have to pop off the nut on the top of the strut. I think this is 18mm, you might want to double check. But before you do, it is extremely important that you make sure you compress the spring before you do that. To do this, I rented a spring compressor from AutoZone for $50. You can get your money back when you return the tool, so it's basically a free rental. Removing the OEM strut was, however, easy using the spring compressor, but reinstalling was a different story, and I'll show you why in a bit. Now it's time to remove the top nut. I use an electric impact gun since the shock will most likely spin along with the nut if you use hand tool. Time for this beautiful blue Unplugged Performance spring to go in. There are labels on the spring which probably indicate the orientation of the spring. However, in case the label is placed upside down, one end of the spring is also narrower, which will also tell the correct orientation. Narrow end face down. Using the spring compressor from AutoZone was impossible, as the spring compressor would jam up with the compressed coil due to the lowering spring have a tighter gap between coils. I finally gave up with the spring compressor, and my camera also ran out of battery, so I apologize that I started relying on my GoPro, head mount, and iPhone to document the process. Next day, I brought the two front strut to a shop who has a bench spring compressor, which is a lot more efficient and a lot safer. This effort steered me away from a true DIY installation. However, with a different type of spring compressor, perhaps one with a thinner contact to the spring, it may work. So finally, the front struts are complete and the Unplugged Performance low springs are in. Reinstall the strut assembly with the reverse order of removal. For the back, it's a lot easier since spring compressor is not required. You do, however, need a second floor jack to support the lower control arm as you remove the spring and reinstalling the spring. First, remove the plastic cover on the bottom, holding on to by one single 10mm bolt. Then remove the two 21mm bolts and nuts, one for the strut and one for the wheel hub. Apply downward pressure to lower the tray that is holding the spring. Now the OEM spring can slide right out. Swap the rubber pieces to the Unplugged Performance spring and reinstall it onto the car. Using a second floor jack to help lower or raise the lower control arm to align the bolt holes with the strut and wheel hub. Bolt up the two 21mm bolts and nuts, reinstall the bottom plastic cover, and you are done. I chose to rock the Unplugged Performance decal because I thought it was pretty cool. And time for a car wash and a quick video montage to show off the new sexy ride. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you find this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up and share this with your friends who may be interested. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so, as I will have much more DIY or product review video coming in the future. Thank you.